You speak as though it were an actual experience, and today I had some. Welcome on board. Dermont, old boy. So it is, has been, I mean. Give us the yarn. I can give you one instance. Out in Mesopotamia, just after the armistice, I came into my tent one evening with a feeling strong upon me. Danger! Exclamation mark. Look out! Exclamation mark. Hadn't the ghost of a notion what it was all about. I made a round of the camp, fussed unnecessarily, took all precautions against an attack by hostile Arabs. Then I went back to my tent. As soon as I got inside, the feeling popped up again, stronger than ever. Danger. In the end, I took a blanket outside, rolled myself up in it, and slept there. Well, the next morning, when I went inside the tent, first thing I saw was a great knife arrangement, about half a yard long, struck down through my bunk, just where I would have lain. I soon found out about it. One of the Arab servants. His son had been shot as a spy. What have you got to say to that, Uncle Allington? As an example of what I call the red signal. The specialist smiled non-committally. A very interesting story, my dear Dermot, but not one that you would accept unreservedly. Yes, yes, I have no doubt that you had the premonition of danger, just as you state. But it is the origin of the premonition I dispute. According to you, it came from without, impressed by some outside source upon your mentality. But nowadays, we find that nearly everything comes from within, from our subconscious self. Good old subconscious, cried Jack Trent. Good old subconscious, cried Jack Trent. Is the jack of all trades nowadays. Sir Allington continued without heeding the interruption. I suggest that by some glance or look, this Arab had betrayed himself. Your conscious self did not notice or remember, but with your subconscious self, it was otherwise. The subconscious never forgets. We believe too that it can reason and deduce quite independently of the higher or conscious will. Your subconscious self then believed that an attempt might be made to assassinate you and succeeded in forcing its fear upon your conscious realization. That sounds very convincing, I admit, said Dumont, smiling. But not nearly so exciting, pouted Mrs. Eversley. It is also possible that you may have been subconsciously aware of the hate felt by the man towards you. What in the old days used to be called telepathy certainly exists, though the conditions governing it are very little understood. Have there been any other instances? Asked Claire of Dumont. Oh yes, but nothing very pictorial, and I suppose they could all be explained under the heading of conscience. Under the heading of coincidence. I refused an invitation to a country house once, for no other reason than the hoisting of the red signal. The place was burnt out during the week. By the way, Uncle Allington, where does the subconscious come in there? I'm afraid it doesn't, said Allington, smiling. But you've got an equally good explanation. Come on now, no need to be tactful with near relatives. Well then, nephew, I venture to suggest that you refused the invitation for the ordinary reason that you didn't much want to go, and that after the fire you suggested to yourself that you had had a warning of danger, which explanation you now believe implicitly. It's hopeless, laughed Dumont. It's heads you win, tails I lose. Never mind, Mr. West, cried Violet Eversley. I believe in your red signal implicitly. Is the time in Mesopotamia the last time you had it? Yes, until, I beg your pardon, nothing. Demont sat silent. The words which had nearly left his lips were, yes, until tonight. They had come quite unbidden to his lips, voicing a thought which had as yet not been consciously realized, but he was aware at once that they were true. The red signal was looming up out of the darkness. Danger, danger at hand. But why? What conceivable danger could there be here? Here in the house of his friends? At least, well, yes, there was that kind of danger. He looked at Claire Trent, her whiteness, her slenderness, the exquisite droop of her golden head. But the danger had been there for some time. It was never likely to get acute. For Jack Trent was his best friend, and more than his best friend, the man who had saved his life in Flanders and had been recommended for the VC for doing so. A good fellow, Jack, one of the best. Damned bad luck that he should have fallen in love with Jack's wife. He'd get over it someday, he supposed. A thing couldn't go on hurting like this forever. One could starve it out. That was it. Starve it out. It was not as though she would ever guess. And if she did guess, there was no danger of her caring. A statue, a beautiful statue, a thing of gold and ivory and pale pink coral. A toy for a king, not a real woman. Claire, the very thought of her name, uttered silently, hurt him. He must get over it. He'd cared for women before, but not like this. Said something. Not like this? Well, there it was. No danger there. Heartache, yes, but not danger. Not the danger of the red signal. That was for something else. He looked round the table, and it struck him for the first time that it was rather an unusual little gathering. His uncle, for instance, seldom dined out in this small, informal way. It was not as though the Trents were old friends. Until this evening, Dumont had not been aware that he knew them at all. To be sure, there was an excuse. A rather notorious medium was coming after dinner to give a séance. Sir Allington professed to be mildly interested in spiritualism. Yes, that was an excuse, certainly. The word forced itself on his notice, an excuse. Was the séance just an excuse to make the specialist's presence at dinner natural? I will be back. It's very interesting. It's like that Agatha Christie movie that just turned into a film and just came out, right? That Agatha Christie novel. But I don't want to think about the other one at all.